So are you a leader? Can you lead yourself? Do others want to follow you? Are you a leader or are you a manager? What's the difference? A manager, they have to follow you. A leader, they want to follow you. Are politicians leaders? Are there different types of leaders? Can you become more charismatic? Are you born with it? Is it learned? Stay tuned.
Maximize your influence. Kurt Mortensen is the author of Persuasion IQ, Laws of Charisma, and the best-selling book, Maximum Influence.
So the answer is yes, there's different types of leaders out there. We're going to talk about that today. You can add charisma to each one of these. The challenge out there is a lot of managers think they're leaders. Why? Well, I told them to do it and they did it. I'm a leader. No, they didn't want to get fired. They didn't want to lose their job. You were the boss. They didn't want to do it. They just went through the motions and did it. Politicians, are they leaders? And I would say no. Why? Because they only lead the people that like them, that think like them. A true leader has to lead everyone. Think about it. When you're a leader in an organization or anywhere, for the most part, you don't get to choose the people you lead. They're assigned to you. And somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago, why don't I talk about politics on the show? Equal charisma, politicians. Why would I offend half the audience with my analysis? You do not, in influence and persuasion, talk about religion, social issues, politics, unless that's your thing. That's what you're persuading on. You choose the one thing you're persuading on and focus on that. For the most part, in most places, no matter what you say on the subject of religion, social issues, politics, you're going to offend half the audience. And when you offend your audience, that makes them harder to influence. Just saying, just putting it out there. Welcome to podcast 522. Kurt Mortensen here. Hopefully you're mastering that critical art of persuasion, motivation, influence, all the soft skills we love on this podcast. Let's kick it off with the persuasion blunder.
Don't!
So one of the fun things I get to do is I get to monitor persuasive sales presentations. It could be live, it could be video, it could be Zoom. There's different ways to do it. And the fun part of it is I get to interview the prospect. Of course, we get permission after they've lied to you. Oh, it's too expensive. I can't afford it. I need to think about it. Let me do more research. Let me take it to the committee. Most of the time, they're just getting rid of you. They're being nice. And that's not what they're looking for. And after monitoring thousands of presentations, that's how I created the perfect persuasive presentation. So, hey, you want me to fine-tune or help create your presentation? Let me know. I've got templates, I got formats, I've got stuff that will help you out for free. But you got to contact me at kurt@maximizeyourinfluence.com. That's also the place to send in your emails. You can use anything that you submit on the podcast. You get the free gold version of influenceuniversity.com. So, it was going pretty well. He obviously knew the product, knew the industry. And this is where most people blow it, the biggest blunder at the very end. Here was the call to action. Have any questions? No, I'm okay. I need to do a little research. Okay, well, let me know what you want to do for the next step or when you want to meet. No, and no. Remember, someone's getting sold here. They're either going to sell you why they shouldn't do it, you're going to sell them why they should. I mean, that is the world of persuasion and influence. When you're meeting someone, it'll be face-to-face, Zoom, live, does not matter. You book a meeting from a meeting. Write that down, memorize it. That is the key. It's so much harder later on when they're not, as they say, under the ether, under your spell, under your influence, under your charisma. You book a meeting from a meeting. You book a negotiation from a negotiation. You always know what the next step is. What are the deliverables? What is the next meeting? What are they going to do? When are you going to contact them? What are you going to send them? What are they going to send you? When are you going to talk next? Has to be done when they're under your charisma, under the ether. That's when it's done. That is the blunder. Now, I know this can't be done 100% of the time, but you still need to know what their next steps are, what their buying process is, what you need to do, what they need to do has to be done in that meeting. Not like, oh, well, let's take a look at it. When it's not tangible, when it's just fluffy, woo-woo, in the air type stuff, it never gets done. It's just a way to get rid of you. I need to think about it. Great. Tell me exactly what you need to think about. Okay, how long is that going to take? Well, I'm not sure this fits here and here. All right, well, I'll send you this information, and you contact so-and-so, and I'll call you in 48 hours. Done, and done. So important. If you leave it up in the air, and you think they're going to think about it, they're going to pray about it, they're going to do it, they're going to make it happen, Once you leave, they're going to forget about you because people are busy. So here's the blunder. Don't leave it up in the air. You book a meeting from a meeting. You book the next step from a meeting. That is a key factor. That is a blunder. I see it time and time again. People are too afraid to get a commitment, a call to action, a close, a yes, a next step. That is your job. And you should go into that persuasive presentation knowing exactly what you want to get. Is it the yes? Is it the credit card? Is it, let's take to the committee? Is it another meeting? You need to spell it out. It needs to happen. So that is the blunder of the day. Strike when the iron's hot. Again, they're under the ether. They're under your charisma. They're under your spell. They're being influenced. They're getting swayed. Right? And when you push a little bit, they might push a little back, but you can still, what is the next step? What are the deliverables? What do you need? What is the next step? Has to happen then. Because if you wait till another moment, another meeting, it won't happen. Ask any professional car salesperson about a be back. What's a be back? Oh, I'll be back. Yeah, they're not. Statistically speaking, they're not. That's why they're such hard closers, is because they feel like they only have one shot. That might not be as true in your world, but still something interesting to think about. Takes us to listener email.
Oh boy!
This is Alan. I attended your Leadership by Charisma course, and I have a question as far as what leadership style is the best. So let's answer that, Alan, go through the different types of leadership. But first, let's get into our geeky Scarly article. And remember all these links, your free Persuasion IQ assessment, the specials we'll be talking about will be available at maximizeyourinfluence.com. So this article comes from Harvard, Frontiers in Psychology, Katie Schonk and Dr. Wang, Hu, and Lee on servant leadership theory. So that's one of the theories, one type of leadership. This one's from Harvard. Let's dissect it. Let's see what we think. And so they talk about this participative leadership. And they said it does promote more collaborative decision-making than traditional directive military management, do-it-or-you're-fired type leaderships. But it did have more collaborative decision-making. The employees were more engaged, and there was better organizational performance. They say today more than ever, employees want to say in the decisions that affect them. Workers are increasingly demanding input into where and when they work, what they do, whom they work for, and the other issues. They want to be more involved. And it does depend on the organization. It does depend on the product and service. So they say this participative leadership is a type of democratic leadership style in which subordinates are intentionally involved in organizational decision-making. Goals of this type of leadership include enhancing employees' sense of ownership of their work, improving overall decision-making, and integrating workers' personal goals with those of the organization. So they're involved. They have ownership. It's not just a small piece. They are part of the organization. They are part of the decision-making. They are part of the future. So social psychologist Rennis Likert said there are three main principles in this type of leadership. Number one, the principle of mutual support, which specifies that leaders and employees have the trust needed to jointly determine and pursue goals. Number two, the group decision principle, or basically the commitment to group decision-making. And number three, the high standards principle, which fosters collective responsibility for achieving excellence. So, of course, they did a study asking for employees' input before making decisions. They were delegating many of the decision-making powers to subordinates, and they encouraged them to make a decision. Now, that's assuming they're ready. They're not stuck in the Peter principle or the imposter syndrome. If you don't know what those are, check out the archives at maximizeyourinfluence.com. We've talked about those before. So most of the studies show that this type of leadership generally benefits employees' psychological well-being, like we talked about, increases their organizational commitment, and makes them more trusting in their leaders. Bottom line, and you know this, when employees make more organizational decisions, they become more invested in them. And let me add, even in a meeting, there's some problem, some challenge. Getting everyone's input, whether it be a mission statement, that problem, whatever it is, people are more likely to be engaged because you've had their input. So bottom line, employees are more likely to accept change to the policies they helped create. They just have a stronger sense of buy-in. Other studies show that it enhances their psychological security, There's greater innovation, greater motivation, greater performance. But there's also a drawback. It can increase employee stress. They might not have the tools to be able to do this. They might not have the training to be able to do this. Now, a good thing too, it also creates creativity, but it reduces efficiency. The whole team involved, the whole company involved, the whole department involved, the greater number of people involved in decision making, the longer it takes, the more deliberation, the more coordination, the more stress, for the leader anyway, and it takes more time. It's time intensive. Because what? Everyone's weighing the options, analyzing suggestions, look at the proposals. It impairs leaders from making those quick decisions. When there's a fire in the building, we do not want to do this. It's time to get out. It's time to make the decision. It's time to abandon ship. I know that's an extreme example, but sometimes when there needs to be a quick decision, you got to turn the ship real fast. You got to use a different type of leadership. So let's go into these different styles. This participative leadership, directive, authoritative, paternalistic, different types of leadership. So let's go in these, and then I want to add an element, because each one of these you can add the element of charisma. You're not born with it. You can become more charismatic. That was the big thing I learned researching laws of charisma. You can become more charismatic no matter your leadership style. So we talked about this participative leadership. Then there's servant leadership, where the primary goal of the leader is to serve others. I believe this was coined by Robert Greenleaf. Now, a servant leader tends to have more empathy. They're understanding the feelings of others. The better listeners are paying attention. People like them better. They trust them better. They feel like they're on their team. They feel like they can make a mistake. They can go to them with their problems, even their emotional health, the challenges they're having at home. This type of leader is very aware of what people are going through, their strengths and weaknesses. Their goal is to replace themselves. As a servant leader, you're grooming people to take your place. That's what you want. That's your goal. Again, that's why politicians aren't leaders. They don't want to be replaced. For the most part, they don't want to groom someone else. They want that position forever. This type of leader is also good with taking responsibility for mistakes and blunders that they make, their team makes. Their team knows they'll stand up for them. They've got their back. And basically, their commitment is to the growth of people. There's personal development. There's professional growth. They're building the team, the community. I mean, there's drawbacks to this too. Let's be honest. This is very time consuming. Again, just like participative leadership, it can slow down the decision-making process. Sometimes there's a little confusion, like, oh, who's the leader here? What are the boundaries? Are you the leader? Am I the leader? There's a high risk of burnout. I mean, leaders who do this, it takes a lot of mental energy to prioritize others and get things done. And that's the other thing, too, is they don't get things done because they're always working their team, which can be a good thing. But if you can't get things done, that can hurt the leadership process. Some employees might take advantage of the leader's selfless nature. They might not give it their all. They know they can't get fired, at least in their mind. Some people, depending how they grew up, can see this as a perceived weakness, being indecisive. Then there's directive leadership. Now, that's a style where the leader provides clear, specific instructions, closely supervises task and performance, has control, makes the decision, and gets things done. They make sure that the people underneath them follow specific procedures and guidelines. They're safe, and there's the expectation that the people underneath them comply with their directives. Now, there's a time and place for all of these. Again, depending on industry, product, service, company, culture, organization. Now, directive leaders, man, they're clear. It's precise. Everyone knows what to do. It's not ambiguous. They know it needs to get done. There's close supervision. There's monitoring. Tasks are completed correctly, and all the decisions are made by them. Now, this gives structure and control. There's clear rules, procedures, and expectations. But also, there's also discipline and enforcement. You don't do it, here are the consequences. Now, this is used, again, when tasks are simple and repetitive. It doesn't take a lot of mental bandwidth. This also works well when safety is critical. This works well when there's urgency, crisis, there's a fire in the building, and things need to be done today. Also works when you're dealing with maybe people that have lower skills or experience levels, but it also has drawbacks. It can suck the life out of people, can reduce motivation, loyalty. People don't have that autonomy where the people feel micromanaged, and that's a big complaint a lot of times with leaders. They don't feel like they're part of the team, part of the organization. Creativity goes way down, innovation goes down, and like I said, motivation goes down. And the other challenge too is the dependence on the leader. They just become reliant for direction, decision-making. They can't make decisions on their own. When they're on the front line, they should be able to make some decisions on their own and function independently. Then there's that authoritarian leader. There is no input, no option. All the choices are made by the leader. You're in control, you're strict, and there's a clear hierarchy. This is taking directive leadership times 10. This could be a Hitler, a cult leader, someone in the military. This is what they call military management. Do it or you're fired. It's there. Now, when you're an authoritarian leader, there's no consulting the team. Clear guidelines, do it or you're fired. My way or the highway. You follow these procedures or else. There's no participation. And again, I don't recommend this one, but it could work in a crisis, an emergency. Clear direction is needed and they're low task skills. And so this is directive leadership times 10, force, control, intimidation, do it or else. This also decreases motivation, morale, loyalty, creativity, innovation, dependence on the leader. And on the bottom line with an authoritarian leadership, you're using fear. That's all you have. If you're running the organization, the cult, the country with pure fear, that's authoritarian leadership. Then paternalistic leadership. This is where you're the mom, the dad. They feel like you have your best interest in mind. There's still some control, and you're the parent, you're making the decisions. You love them, there's loyalty, there's trust, there's a personal relationship. You care about them. It's kind of a parental role. You're providing guidance and protection. You're caring for them. You're the strong authority figure, still making the decisions. There's still loyalty and trust. I mean, you can use it when it fits in the culture, when it fits in the organization. They feel like you're developing them for the next step. That can create a cohesive team. Of course, there's drawbacks. There's the dependency. The parent makes all the decisions. People don't want to change. This is how we've done it. Sometimes there's that sense of inequality. Just like in a family where one child thinks one parent loves another child more than the other, and people don't feel empowered. So you have these different styles. Which one is the best? Which one do you have? I mean, it depends. Obviously, you got to adapt it to your style, to your personality, to your culture, to your organization. But I do want to add this big piece. When you look at charisma, you can add charisma to any one of these. Even authoritative. Hitler was charismatic. Jim Jones ran a cult, was very charismatic, and people followed them. You can use it for great good, change people's lives, improve countries. You find charismatic leaders that have destroyed countries and hurt people. It's kind of neutral, like gravity. It's just there. We've seen a lot of politicians. We're not going to name names here. I'm bringing up politics, I probably shouldn't, but look at politicians. You've seen this out there to where to the public, they're charismatic, they're nice, they're likable, but to their staff, they're authoritative, they're dictators, they're not likable, they have a high turnover rate. So what are some things you can add? When you add charisma, you add vision to the picture. Charismatic leaders have a clear, compelling vision for the future. People buy in, they want to follow them when they want to be there, and they want to be influenced by them. That's the thing with charisma. People want to be influenced by you. Charismatic people have a lot of influence, persuasion, motivational skills. They're very confident. They're self-assured. They instill a sense of trust with their followers. And people can sense their belief, their passion. I mean, we can add empathy, personal charm, likability, presentation skills. I'm just saying, no matter your type of leader, ask yourself, does this fit your situation? And what elements of charisma can you add? So hopefully that answers your question on the type of leaders, the pros and cons, the good, the bad, the fact, the fiction. regardless of your leadership style. Do you need to adjust it? You need to change it, number one. Number two, what elements of charisma can you add? So there we have it. That's a wrap. That's podcast 522. And Alan, for sending me the email, free gold version of influenceuniversity.com. And hey, let's run a special. Let's continue it. Influence University has the templates, the library, the videos, the audios, pretty much everything that I've done in one spot. I'm going to give you 60% off your first year. But wait, there's more. You know, I love saying that. Not only will you get 60% off your first year, I will give you the bonus of making it a lifetime membership. $97, lifetime membership, influenceuniversity.com. Click on the link or go to influenceuniversity.com/special and change your life and income forever. So take something you learned today, make that change, implement it, become a better leader, better influencer, more charismatic, and go out and persuade with power.